Hello everybody, welcome to Your Heart. I am Fatemeh moazzami Peiro. I'm from Iran, studying Ayurvedic medicine and surgery in India. Today I'm glad to tell you we are going to have a webinar about intuitive intelligence. Now I will go to invite Rick Snyder, an author, a speaker and business consultant. Please let me a second to invite him. As soon as he joins the webinar. Have you ever, Namaste.
Namaste, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm so glad to see you, and I welcome to all of our followers, viewers, to join us. So today we are going to start our webinar on intuitive intelligence. So I would like to ask you, please could you give a short introduction of yourself? So we will start our webinar, and I will turn off the comment. At the end, if we had time, we could turn on. Then, if they had question, our followers, they could ask.
Okay, excellent. Great. So, hello everyone on Instagram Live. This is actually my first Instagram Live, believe it or not. So, very excited to be here with you all. And so, my name is Rick Snyder, and I'm very passionate about this topic around intuition. And intuition has been something that I've been connected to since I was a kid, and being able to feel things going on in the space around me that other people weren't talking about. And it just became something that was very curious to me of like, what is this invisible force, that we all sense and feel and we're part of? And sometimes it guides us towards the things that we're wanting to learn about and grow and be challenged by. And an ability to read out the room and to read out what's happening around us in our environment. So it's really an amazing gift and a powerful tool that we all have access to. And so just my quick story is basically I'm the CEO of a company called Invisible Edge, where we actually train and teach intuitive intelligence to leaders and teams in companies, in corporations and small businesses also. And I wrote this book, Decisive Intuition.
Same here.
Oh, there it is. And so I wrote this book in 2019, and well, the book was published in 2019, but I felt intuitively called. I'm from the US, but I felt called to move to France and to write the book in France. So I was there for 3 years writing the book and enjoying life over there. And it was the perfect place to write. It was right by the Mediterranean Sea. And I literally had a vision of the sea and having a window where I could be inspired by the view and the beauty of nature and type and make this book come true. So that's what happened, and now it's here, and now I'm back in San Diego, California, and that's a little bit of an intro of who I am.
And I heard when you went to French, you even didn't know how to talk French, but you just
No.
did. Cool.
This is an interesting actually part of the story that intuition doesn't always lead you to places that are comfortable, right?
Right.
Like sometimes we have this romantic notion that, oh, intuition is just, I always get the right answer and everything's great. It's not how it works, right? And so when I was intuitively led to go to France, I had a calling in my heart center. It was very clear. It was a feeling and a voice. It's like, go to France. And I literally looked down and I said, but I don't even speak French. And like my ego was protesting. Right? My ego was saying, you sure this is right? I think let's have a different idea here, please. But it was very clear, go to France. And then later on, a couple days later, it said, go to the city of Cannes in the south, near Nice. And so I know I had the body chills, and I knew it was a very clear signal from my deeper essence to go there. And it wasn't Italy, it wasn't Spain, it wasn't San Francisco. It was, that part of France. So I knew enough in my life to trust that because I've had those experiences before. And it's not a thought. It's not like go to France coming from here. It's a deeper feeling that's coming from the heart center. And that's what led me to that part of the world.
Right. So now I would like to ask you, you wrote a book, Intuition, Decisive Intuition. What does intuition mean? And what is the difference between intuitive or intuition? Is there any difference between these two?
Okay, so intuition is usually defined out there in the world as knowing something instantly without the need for any conscious reasoning. So I don't need to think about it. I just know something is true, right? So that's usually how it's defined. How I define it in my book is a little bit different because I want it to be very practical and something that you can relate to out there. So how I define it is it's an embodied knowing. So it's not a knowing that just comes from up here. It's an embodied knowing from all of my whole bodily wisdom that comes from listening to what wants to happen next. So I'm actually listening. It's an active conversation I'm having with life.
Right.
And it requires a lot of listening and receptivity of, oh, what feels right in this situation? You know, what feels right with my team right now in the room? Where do we need to go next in this company decision we have to make? Or in this relationship, maybe I'm in a relationship and does it feel right to continue or are we kind of at an end here? And how do I listen for what wants to happen next? So that's really how I define it, an embodied knowing that comes from listening to what wants to happen next. And that means we have to learn how to tune into our body, our sensations, our emotions, our energies, and that's hard. It takes a lot of work.
I think all will come in one point, and that would be intuition. Body, senses, everything, all they will join in one point, and that would be intuition, what I feel.
Sometimes, but sometimes that point can move, right? Like sometimes people feel like, oh, I get a message in my solar plexus, or in my heart, or in my throat, or in my third eye, or my stomach. And so everyone has a different intuitive language. And some people, it's not even about feeling. Some people get images and they see pictures and they're more visual, they're more clairvoyant or visual. We call them visual intuitives or body intuitives or audio intuitives. Some people get sound and they hear messaging through audio. There's also dream states. Sometimes we get messages through our dream state because our conscious mind is out of the way and we can access our subconscious, which is where how we connect with our intuition.
Actually, this was one of my questions. Is it intuition just limited to awakening state or no? Even when we are sleeping, we can have access to intuition.
Very much so. We can have access to our intuition in our sleep states, especially because the rational thinking and the linear thinking is taking a rest. And so we have more access to our subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind processes information 500,000 times faster than the conscious mind.
Right.
So it's more immediate with real-time information. That's why it's so powerful and connected to our intuition versus just our linear thinking like, oh, okay, let's do some critical thinking. I think I can find my way, through this decision versus how do I let life inform me a little bit more also?
Right.
And I'm not saying critical thinking is bad. I'm glad that my mind can critically think. It needs to do that, but it's not the only tool that we have.
Okay. Why did you write the book of Decisive Intuition?
I think one way I could answer that is all the times that
you told from childhood you had some feeling. How did you reach to this point to know, yes, this is your way?
I think part of the answer is that all the times that I did not listen to my intuition in my life, and there were consequences, right? And I'm sure most people out there can relate. How many times have you had a strong feeling about something and you did not listen to it, right? I mean, Fatemeh, have you had that experience before?
Yes, and I paid consequences, yeah.
Yes, you pay a big price sometimes, right? It can be very painful and it can be really tough life lessons when you don't trust yourself. When you don't trust what you're feeling and sensing, right?
Now I'm trying to listen more, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that's part of why I wrote the book is all the times that I didn't listen to it, and then the times when I did also, and it really paid off for me in my life. It was some of the biggest moments in my life. And so I also wrote it because I don't feel like we've done enough study and research and focus on this very important topic. And I think because the last 20 years, neuroscience has finally caught up to, oh yeah, intuition is real. And in fact, we can track it in functional MRIs and in brain studies, and also in our whole neural network, not just in our brain, but our whole neural network. We can actually start tracking when we have intuitive moments versus when we don't. And so I think now science is finally giving it validity. Even in the US military, I interviewed, I have a podcast called Straight Talk Live, and I interviewed a Navy SEAL an ex-Navy SEAL commander a couple weeks ago. They actually train intuition with their warriors and their leaders. So it's even becoming accepted in the military. It's becoming accepted in the scientific community. And it's only a matter of time before this gets more accepted by the public masses. And so I'm trying to do that in the business space specifically, because a lot of times business has not been very intuitive and they're very data-driven only, but they're not trusting their own experience and their own wisdom as well.
Thank you. What is the science behind intuition? Now you talk about neuroscience and all this. Tell us about three brains that you mentioned in chapter 6 of your book. What does three brains say? Is that physical body, or how can we talk about this?
Yes, I think it's probably physical body, emotional body, energetic body, spiritual body, mental body. It's probably all of them combined. But it's probably easiest to talk about it in the physical in some ways, because literally we have a gut brain,
right.
we have a heart brain, and we have our head brain.
Right.
And we all know about the head brain. It's the greatest source of, I think we have over 86 billion neurons that are located in the head brain, and it's our command center. It's how our executive function. It's how we make decisions and critically think, access imagination. There's store memory. There's so many amazing things that the brain does that we all know. What we don't know so much typically is the gut brain has actually 500 million neurons itself. It's actually the size of a cat's brain. So we have a little cat's brain in our stomach, right? Some of us, it maybe becomes a tiger when we get hungry. But the point is, bad joke, sorry. But the point is, we have a whole intelligence down here in our gut, and it's actually the first brain that forms in the embryo when we're all little embryos in our mother's womb. And so the gut brain actually develops first. It's our primordial brain. And if you think about it, what it's responsible for, it's our biome. It helps us feel a sense of connection around safety, security, survival, danger, a threat in the space. And so we use our gut intuition literally around, hey, is this safe? If I'm crossing the street, is this okay? I'm in India. Is this guy trying to rip me off when I'm trying to negotiate pricing for a carpet or a shirt or a kurta pajama? Are they trying to rip me off here? Or is this taxi a safe taxi to go inside of? Like, we have to be able to trust our intuition all the time, right? Is this man or woman safe to be with right now? Like, we have to really listen to this. It's very important to learn how to trust those feelings and sounds. And then we have the heart, and this is also about courage. The gut's also about courage. And what I like about gut intuition, there's no bullshit. It's just like yes or no, like this is right. And it's very, black or white sometimes. It's not so much about words and stories. It's just like, oh, this doesn't feel good. Or this is exactly where we need to take the business. And it's usually very clear that way. The heart intuition, the heart has between 40,000 and 120,000 neurons in the heart center. So we literally have heart intelligence also. And so our whole neural network is located here, which also stores different kinds of memory, and it secretes different hormones that other parts of the brain and gut don't secrete, like oxytocin, which is the connection hormone. So how we feel empathy and connection with other people around us, or animals, or the plant kingdom and earth. Right. And so it's our ability to actually be intuitive through love and through reading the room. What they say is that the gut can actually feel across the world. You know, if there's like sometimes a catastrophe that happens halfway around the world, we can kind of feel that in our gut if we really listen. The heart can read the room. The heart doesn't necessarily have the ability to read the whole planet, but it can read the room and your environment very easily. The brain has the smallest circumference. It can't really go very far out.
Right.
You know, so it can't really read the room, but it can process information. It can connect all the dots of like, oh, that's what I'm feeling. That's what my intuition's telling me. So
And
the
not always
brain is very
right.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, and not always is right. We have yeah, different thoughts, so that could not be
Hmm.
right. But what we feel,
Yeah.
I think that could give a better answer to us.
Yeah, there's a saying that the body doesn't lie. The mind can lie all the time, right? We can deceive ourselves like, oh, I'm so great, or everything's perfect, or we can tell ourselves stories all the time. But the
Right.
body doesn't lie. And so a big part of the intuition training that we do is we teach people how do you read body language, how do you learn to feel the energies and emotions around you and inside of you, and how do you get better at being more receptive in those ways.
Right. Thank you. What gets in the way of our intuition? Is there any obstacle?
5 of them.
Please, five.
Yes. I'll read them briefly and then we can get into some of them. So the rational critical thinking, the rational mind is and logical mind is number one. It gets in our way all the time because it wants to stay in control, right? And the mind wants to understand reality and make things safe for us. But once again, it's not the only way that we receive information is through our thinking. So the rational mind, busyness, like always being busy, was one way that we stop ourselves from our deeper intuition because we're always
Right.
moving around and we don't allow time for our intuition to find us. Strong emotions like fear
Right.
or being very emotionally charged also gets in the way of our intuition. And if we're hijacked by emotion, we actually are not in a stable place to listen to the more subtle intuitions, right? Because all we think of is fear, all we feel is fear, and so our whole orientation is in that direction. So we have busyness, strong emotions, rational thinking, the ego, and doubt.
No.
And so the ego is a way that if I have an agenda and I want to do something, I'm not going to be open to life.
Right.
I'm not open to all the intuitions that might be around me because I'm very focused on, oh, this is how it has to be.
Right.
Mhm. Even with intuition, I can use my ego of like, oh, I need to find my intuition. I need to hunt it down. I need to get the answer now.
Right.
That's coming from ego. Right? And so the hard part with intuition, we have to let go and realize it might not come to me in my own time frame that I expect. It has a different time frame. And so I have to be more flexible and more open. And then lastly, doubt. If I'm always doubting what I feel and sense, then I'm going to disempower myself. I literally take myself out of my own power because I'm doubting my sense of what I know to be true. And this is a big thing that gets in our way all the time.
That's right. So is intuition different from emotions?
Yes. Intuition is very different than emotions, even though they're also related in the sense that sometimes my intuition uses emotional data to get information. So I'll feel what's happening around me with other people or myself, and that's going to give me information. But they're also different. They're similar, but they're not the same. So they're
Right.
similar, but not the same,
Not the same.
right? And so what they found in functional MRIs is when you have a strong emotional charge, it lights up different parts of the amygdala back here, the reptilian brain. And when you have intuitive moments, it actually lights up different parts of our brain. It also highlights the emotional center, but it also highlights the neocortex.
Right.
Uh, so that's really an interesting thing that they're showing with science, is that literally our frontal cortex and our reptilian brain
Yeah.
are both accessing information at the same time. And so it's really both sides of the brain, the left and the right hemisphere together. It's not just the right brain. It's not just the emotions.
So there
And
is a
so,
union.
yeah, there's a union. And this is our decision-making center is right here. And so when this gets damaged, we actually can't make good decisions. And they've shown this in a lot of psychological testing when people have damage to their frontal orbital cortex right here.
When you say damage, you mean physical damage, or
Yeah, if there's been physical damage, like a car accident or something, or maybe even a birth defect or something at birth, perhaps, where someone has a damage to this area in their brain, a brain trauma,
right?
then that could be affected, their decision-making ability.
Right. I would like to ask, how does intuition help in our daily life, decision making, or connecting with a deeper purpose? How can we apply intuition in our daily life?
Yes, the two most important things that intuition does for us, it helps us read the situation more accurately in real time. So I can read the room in real time. I can also anticipate the future. I can anticipate what wants to happen next. So that's two huge superpowers, right? Like to be able to read more accurately what's happening in the space and to anticipate what wants to happen next. So why is this important? Anytime you're making decisions, which by the way is every day. Every day we're making decisions on what should I eat today? What's good for my body? Should I exercise? Should I still be dating this person? Should I change careers? Like we're always making big decisions, little decisions. Should I change my sleep routine so I get better sleep? Like what can I do and what better decisions can I make to feel better today, right? Or if I'm depressed or anxious, what better decisions can I make that would support me right now? Right. So this is why it's important, because we have a chance to make better, more effective decisions throughout the day that are more in alignment with our highest good. So wouldn't everyone out there want to do that? Probably so, right?
Yeah. Right. And how can we recognize the decision that we are making in our day-to-day life in form of our intuition, or because of, you know what I want to say? We have so many memories and data in our mind. So what I feel, shall I do some purification in my mind by meditation, then start using my intuition? Or no, when I start using intuition, all the data will reach to the limit, zero limit. Because when we have memories, I don't know, the decision I'm making is because of my memory I'm carrying with myself, or it's because of my intuition. How can I recognize these two?
Yes, good question. So the difference between memory and intuition is part of your question, yeah? And then also, how do you distinguish the two? So, really good question. Sometimes it can be difficult to tell, right? What's what? And so intuition lives in the present moment.
Right.
Intuition is happening right now. My memory is from the past. Now, intuition might give me a future view of something, but it's still happening right now in the present moment. And so that's why meditation can be so powerful and mindfulness can be so powerful, because it's one of the things that really calms the mind down. It calms the busyness of the brain, and then we're more opened up to access more information from life. Right. From our environment, from our body, from people around us. Because I'm not just going through life like this in my head. Right. I'm actually more open. So meditation is very helpful.
And is there any special meditation for intuition?
I would just say whatever you find that works for you, that quiets your mind. So everyone has different kinds of meditations that are better for them. So for some people, it's more movement, like yoga, or running, or swimming, or something, because they get in a repetitive motion and their mind relaxes. Some people, this happens for me, like going into a steam room or a hot sauna, or somewhere where it's hot and your body relaxes. And then I start getting great ideas in the shower or in the steam room or something, I'll have great ideas I didn't have before. And so it
Right.
taps into your imagination and creativity as well, and your innovation, which is a huge gift of intuition. For some people, they drive for a long time on a road and then they just kind of forget they're driving and they start thinking of creative things.
Right.
So I think it's really about finding what works for you. I do think some stillness practice is important when you're still and you let life come to you, you let your ideas come to you. You're not trying to go out there and hunt everything down. So I do think for me, meditation and mindfulness is very important, or being out in nature and walking in nature and being still in nature can also be very, very valuable.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And do we need to, again, same thing what I told about working on memories, like should we work on heart separately, on mind separately, on God separately, or are these three are connected to each other?
So some of the exercises in my book have you start to explore the different centers, right? So
Right.
your heart center, your gut center, and then also doing a whole body scan. Because sometimes we get information that might be in our throat or
Right.
our solar plexus or somewhere else, right? And so I think it's important to practice, what happens when I listen to my heart in this decision that I have to make? Okay, now what happens when I go to my gut? What does my gut have to tell me? Let me do my whole body scan. Like, does my body tell me anything that I want to move toward a decision or move further away? And so I think there's ways you can practice these different centers and seeing, once again, what is your intuitive language? How does your intuition speak to you? And I think
Right.
that's the key, is it's not the same for everybody. We all have a different way that we listen and get information.
But we all have access to intuition.
Yes.
And
We're
the
all
source of
born with this
intuition
gift.
is within us. The source of intuition is coming from within.
From within?
What is the
Yeah.
source of intuition? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a really deep question, and it's a really hard question to answer, actually, because I think there's a little bit of mystery in some of it, right? There's some of it is the mystery of life. Um, I have my sense is that we all have a connection to soul, and that soul kind of is the battery power that keeps the body going, right? Is the soul juice and your soul connection. And so my sense is that intuition is most deeply and intimately connected to our soul intentions and our soul
Right.
wisdom. And so that's why sometimes we feel like we're right on path in our lifetime. Like we're going in our life and we feel like, oh, I'm on track. Everything is connecting. And then there's other times where I feel like I feel so lost. I
Right.
feel disconnected. What am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? What's my career? Where should I live?
Right.
And so we wouldn't have those feelings unless there was some kind of soul intention when we came down here. Otherwise, how would we know we feel lost? How would we
Right.
know we feel connected? Unless there was some kind of destiny, a soul destiny that we do have. I also want to say, some people say either we have destiny or free will.
Right.
I think it's both. I think it can be both and, not either or. So, for example, what if you, Fatemeh, have a specific soul destiny that you're here to fulfill? And you know when you're on track and you know when you're not, and the things that you're attracted to study and learn and grow, and the people you meet and the places you go. For me, that's your soul whispering in your ear, like, hey, Fatemeh, go left right now. Go left. Go to France. Go wherever, right? Go to India, right?
Right.
So I think we do have a destiny, but we also have free will. We can choose, oh, I want to go for that adventure or I don't. And we can actually sabotage our own soul intention. We can get in the way. We can
Right.
doubt. We can not trust. We can not go for it out of fear or whatever. And so, or out of our past trauma, and maybe we just don't have the facility that we used to have in this life. So I do think both are true.
Right.
And so
I
I,
think when
yeah.
we use what I understand, when we use our intuition, we are more close to our free will. But when we don't listen, the destiny will take us where it should take.
Hmm.
But by
Yeah.
listening to our intuition, we can choose where I'm going next. And what I would like to say, because in my life, I didn't know that is intuition, but I always had a feeling, a
Mm,
inner voice. I don't know from where that is coming, but that is
mhm,
from inside, and always guided me. According to many people, what I did and what I'm doing, maybe it's not right, and it's not always everything is going smoothly. No, I'm facing some
mhm,
difficulties. Like
mhm,
I came to India, I didn't know English more than 5, 6 sentences. Then I came here, all the classes, yeah, very Hindi, Sanskrit, and English. So I learned 6 months, more than 6 months. I was just silent. I was just looking at people and trying to connect with my heart to them.
mhm.
So I think this is intuition guided me to come to find you actually, because I was always thinking this is my like destiny, not destiny, mission to join Ayurveda, yoga, and some feeling I didn't know what is that, and now I feel that is intuition to
Mm,
join all this and go
mm,
forward. And
mm,
how I found you, it was like by only intuition. I
mm,
was searching about heartfulness, about intuition. Then I found you, and I
mm.
started to translate your video to Persian language. And here I would like to tell to our Iranian friends, um, dear Rick, give permission to me to translate this book to Persian. And it's my honor to be able to do this. Yeah, I think this is a thing. When we have trust in our intuition, uh, universe will guide us. We just need to listen. And it's not
Yeah.
always easy. We just need to follow.
So the three places where we get stuck from
Right,
living from our intuitive intelligence is
right,
number one, we don't know how to listen to those signs and signals in the first place, a lot of
right,
us. And so that's the first part where we get stuck, is we don't know how to pay attention and listen to that. Number
right,
two, maybe we know how to listen, but we don't trust. And
right,
so that's the second place we get stuck is, oh, I know I'm feeling something, but I don't really know if that's real. I don't know if I trust it. Maybe I'll go and make that decision anyway. And so that's the second place. The third place we get stuck is we are afraid to take action.
right,
So I might know exactly what I need to do, but I'm afraid to have the conversation. I'm afraid to talk to that person, even though I know I need to, and I know it's true, and I feel it in my bones, but I'm afraid. And so there's something powerful that happens when you meet the mystery with action. It's not enough to just let the mystery do its thing and then you're not part of the dance. You're supposed to be part of the dance also. You're the co-pilot, right, of life. And so that's what makes life beautiful is we get to co-pilot and we get to that's our dance partner, if you will, you know? And so intuition is encouraging us, but we have to take action. We have to be willing to be uncomfortable, try something new, um,
right,
just make mistakes and keep going.
right. And here now, I would like to can meditation you told. As I'm studying Ayurveda, is there something that we could say any food or lifestyle could affect on our intuition? If we connect intuition to physical body, physical organs, can we say, for example, this food, this disease, or brain boosting medicine could help to increase our intuition? Is there any relation between these two or no?
I would almost say the question the other way is how do we use our intuition to feel into what food is good for our body, right?
Right,
Because there's so many different kinds of food and every body and everybody is different. Every
right,
body is different. And so what's good for you might be a little bit different for me. Just like Ayurveda, right? Not
right,
everyone has the same system and ecosystem. And
right,
so some people eating meat is not good for them. Other people eating meat is actually what they need to do. And different levels of sugar, different levels of whatever, different levels of even out for some people, alcohol is terrible. For other
right,
people, maybe a little bit's okay, and that's fine. So I think you really have to use your intuition and look at what is the effects when I try these different foods and
right,
where do I feel at my best. And I do think there are neurotropic, things out there, supplements that are out there that do help with brain functionality and make you more clear. And I do,
right,
and also if you like overeat and eat too much, that's not going to help your intuition. You're going to start to check out and go to sleep. So I think, eating in moderation, drinking lots of water, but
Right.
listening to what does my body require to be at its best.
Right. Just
So that's
connecting.
where Ayurveda is very powerful in that way, I would imagine,
Right.
also. Mm-hmm.
And now, I would like to ask: is it? It said by listening to our intuition, the power of intuition slowly will increase. Or if we don't listen, slowly, slowly, that voice will like diminish, and we will not be able to listen to that voice. Is it like that? By listening more and more, the voice will be louder and louder.
I do think it's like any practice or any exercise. If we use that muscle, it's going to get stronger.
Right.
If I'm a musician and I practice my instrument, I'm going to get better. And I'm going to be
Right.
able to notice little nuances and subtleties that I didn't know before, right?
Right.
And so same is true with intuition. The more I practice and listen and use it, the stronger my connection to it is going to get. So it's very
Right.
true. Mm-hmm.
Due to like society conditioning, when we are young children, we are taught not to listen their inner voice, or they say, be wise, don't do this thing, don't use your creativity. So all of these are suppressing the sense of our intuition, because since childhood we are listening
Mm-hmm.
different
Mm-hmm.
things, we are hearing different things.
Yeah, so another way to, you're right, as we get programmed and we get conditioned
Right,
by mostly our family of origin is number one. That's the most conditioning that we get,
right,
but also from like our culture, religion, news, neighbors, our school system. Like everything programs us when we're kids, and we're so open as children that we take in all the programming as, oh, this is good, this is bad. This is black, that's white. This is okay. So we get programmed in these different ways. And that does get in the way, for sure, of our
right.
intuition.
Can I say we have hope in each age where, for example, someone is 55, some is 20 years. Whenever they start to listen to their intuition, they can make that intuition sense powerful, or no. We should use from childhood. If we don't use, we cannot listen to that. Whenever we start, we can hear the voice of inside us.
My sense is that children are more naturally open to their intuition because they're not yet fully programmed yet. It hasn't been programmed out of them. And so I think kids have a natural access to, feeling if someone doesn't feel good around them, or maybe sometimes they see magical beings in other dimensions, or who knows what they see, right? Like they have a wild imagination where they can see other realities, or spirits, or things like that, or dead people, right? Like, oh, I see dead people. Like some people have those gifts. Um, and so I think, yes, a lot of us lose that connection at some stage of our life, and then we can reconnect with that, by letting the mind relax and reconnecting back to our essential nature, basically.
The last, I like to ask you, if we want to give a color or shape to intuition, which color can we
Mm.
use for intuition? Is there any special color
Whew.
or position?
I've never been asked that question before.
According to you, which color do you see intuition?
It's difficult to put one color on it, but I would say, if you look at like the Indian chakra systems, often like purple and indigo
Right,
is associated with the third eye. And I don't know, there's something about purple or indigo that has kind of a spiritual quality to it, or a feeling or a vibration to it in some way. I don't know why. I don't know why it is that way, where, our first chakra is red, and then it becomes like, all the way to, yellow, orange, yellow, green, purple, and then eventually like white light. So
right,
I don't know why that is, but I would say maybe purple is a good color to start with. If you want to visualize purple, maybe that helps.
right. And the last word you would like to add, then if you have something more to add, otherwise we would open the comments.
Yeah.
Our viewers, if they had questions, they could also
Yeah,
add.
yeah. The only thing I'll add is I hope that this is helpful for those of you listening, and if anything, it spurs on curiosity, it inspires curiosity to get in touch with your intuition and get curious about it and see what does it have to tell you. How can you use it as a gift and a resource for your life and for those around you?
Right. Actually, right now you talk, this came in my mind to ask because this was always important for me. Sometimes we cannot listen to our intuition, or maybe we don't believe we can. So we are taking help of some guides, or, for example, spiritual teachers or something. Is that suppressing our intuition, or no? We sometimes need to take help of others.
Oh, sometimes we definitely need the wisdom of others around us for sure. And so I think that's a good point, is we don't want to get too siloed in our own little echo chamber of our own intuition. It's important to keep considering other intelligences around us, including other people. So that's important. I think the danger, I think sometimes teachers are fantastic and we all need mentors, but the danger can be when we outsource our intuition to a teacher and then we forget that we have that access ourselves directly. And I've done that before. I've given too much power to a teacher before, or even in a relationship to my partner. And I don't trust my own intuition anymore. And I think that they know better than I do, and they're wiser than me. And I think that can be very dangerous because it disempowers our own intelligence. So it's a tricky thing. How do I stay open to other people, but I don't let that define my truth?
Right.
And that's a tricky line.
Right. Thank you. And now I will open the comment.
Okay.
If our friends, they have any question regarding to intuition.
Bring your questions.
Yeah, and now I would like to ask you, I know you have lots of work to do, but if we had chance to have another life with you when you decide, so I would be so happy, and I think our followers also.
Could you say the question again? I didn't quite understand.
Yeah, I would like to ask you if you have time, because I know you are busy, for another webinar. About time you decide.
Yeah,
so
I could go maybe about 10 more minutes.
Right.
Yeah? Okay.
Okay. Is there any question regarding to intuition? From Iran, they say hi. Salam.
Hello, Iran. I hope you are well.
Yeah, because from different part of Iran, India, and world, they joined us today.
Salam.
So, yeah, salam is hello in Persian.
Salam alaikum.
Okay, you mentioned purple color. It is said the purple stimulate the pineal gland. Watching that point, I could not see. Watching that point in sunrise and sunset can open the pineal gland or third eye. Share your thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful. Sunrise and sunset and natural light, I think is very powerful. They also say that during twilight, like around, I think from like 2 to 4 in the morning can be a very powerful time to practice because it's quiet. I mean, your mind is quieter, the world is quieter around you. It's actually a natural, very supportive time to access the deeper subconscious and the pineal. So I mean, if you have that kind of discipline to get up that early, that can be a very powerful time to practice tracking your intuition and relating to it.
Right. Mehdi is asking, how can we distinguish between intuition and our ego outcomes?
Very good question. Thank you, Mehdi. So when my ego is attached to something, I can feel like a tightness in the grip and like, oh, this is how it needs to look. This is how it needs to happen. And I can get very defensive and protective. And usually when those things are going on, it's probably coming from ego, right? And here's what's interesting. Sometimes I can force my will and get what I want, but I don't enjoy it still, right? It's like I achieved something, but I don't really enjoy it because I forced my way to get it. Where sometimes more intuitive outcomes, there's a flow. I'm tapping into a flow. I'm not forcing something. So I'm literally listening to the flow of what wants to happen next. And it's it's actually magical because I'm not forcing the conversation. And so when something does happen, it's delightful. It's absolutely amazing. When something manifests, and I wanted that, I dreamed it, but I didn't force it. And that's when it's even more, that's when I'm really working with life. That's when I'm co-piloting with the mystery. And I still can take action, but I'm not forcing it. I say, okay, how do you invest in the action, but then divest of the outcome? That's important. So how do I invest in the action, but divest of the outcome? That's not an easy thing to do, and the ego is going to hate you along the way. It's going to kick you and tug you and try to distract you.
And I think we need to be honest with ourselves, because sometimes we know the answer and our intuition is telling yes or no, but we don't want to listen. Our mind is telling no, do something else.
Let me give you an example. Let's say I have to have a difficult conversation with somebody, and the ego outcome might be I want to teach them a lesson. I want to punish them. I want to show them I'm smarter, or show them I know better. And so I'm coming from an ego place if I enter the conversation from that way. Intuition outcome might look like, what wants to happen between the two of us? I don't even know where this conversation is going to go. I know I need to have a conversation with this person, and I know there's something that's bothering me, but I don't know what's going to happen in this conversation. And I don't know what the outcome is going to look like. And so can I trust the process,
right,
and then divest of the outcome? That's more the intuitive way versus, oh, I know exactly what I want to accomplish. I'm going to get this person to do this, and I'm going to tell him what I think, and then that's what's going to happen next. And that's a very narrow way to live. It's a very tight and narrow way to live.
Right. And the next question is, sometimes we have intuition and we can accordingly anticipate what are the consequences, but it seems there is an evil side that prevents us to act according to our intuition. Why do we act inverse?
I want to make sure I understand that. So is the question like, is there an evil side that gets in the way of our intuition? Is that the question?
Question is from, because they are asking different questions, so I need to search. From rooms for roots. Sometimes we have intuition and we can accordingly anticipate what are the consequences, but it seems there is an evil side that prevents us to act according to our intuition. Why do we act inverse?
Okay. Interesting question. Yeah, so I have a little bit of a different take on this. I don't necessarily think that there's like evil outside of us that is controlling our destiny. I think it's really our responsibility. And it's even if bad things happen to me in my life, which does happen, how do I respond? That's where I do have some power, right? I don't have power, and I don't have control of everything that's going to happen in my life. I know that. We all know that by now. Like COVID's a good example. Like nobody saw that coming, right? And so there's things that will happen in our life that we have no control over. And you can say it's evil or it's a punishment. You can go down that road. But I more see it as, okay, what if it's a lesson that life is trying to show us? And then what can I learn from this? And how can I listen to my intuition to guide me along the way? Now, sometimes I might not listen to my intuition, not necessarily because of evil. Maybe it's ignorance. Maybe I just don't know. Maybe I'm stubborn and my ego is stubborn and I want to hold on to my egoic belief. Maybe I let myself get convinced by other voices that are very strong. And so I want to go along with the group and the group think, and I don't have my individuality strong enough yet. And so like whatever the group thinks, oh, okay, I guess that's what we'll do, even though my intuition thinks something different, right? And so I think those are ways that we can not follow through and listen to our intuition. And it can really, and sometimes we're just afraid. Sometimes it's just scary. Sometimes what our soul and our intuition is asking from us is very scary. It's a whole new opportunity, a whole new world that maybe a week ago we didn't think was possible for us at all.
We need to come out of our comfort zone and go through what we don't know what is going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah, you have
And
to leave your
Flor,
comfort zone. Yeah.
right. Flor is asking, always I think everything I hear without trying to save in my mind. One day I can use it. Is it true that unconscious save the information?
Yes. You know what they're showing more with physics is that memory, it's more like the cloud system in computing. It's more like the cloud, where how we store memories is not just in the physical brain, it's actually in the field around us. It's in the
Right,
cloud, right? It's not just our hard drive and our software, it's also our in the cloud. And so literally, we have, electromagnetic fields where you can store information and memory. And so with intuition, you can actually access greater memory,
right,
even in other lifetimes, if you believe in that as well, which I do. But you
right,
can access other soul incarnations if you start to open up those channels. And so
right,
some people have those gifts, not everybody, but some people do. And that's also an amazing benefit or a gift as you continue to develop
right,
this tool, this practice.
right. Again, another question. What are your thoughts on the relationship between the pineal gland and intuition? Is intuition related to the third eye?
Very much so. It's not the only gland or the only part of the body that is activated in intuition, but it's one of the main ones for sure. Once again, we can also get intuition we have a whole neural network in our gut, a whole neural network in our heart. This is the pineal gland, and for sure. What's also interesting is the vagus nerve is the longest nerve that goes from our brainstem all the way to our stomach, to our gut. And
Right,
there's also neural tissue in the vagus nerve. And this is also a place where we get information from our body to our head and from our head to our body. And so that's how information spreads,
right,
and how we all of a sudden have a feeling about something. And then right away we can know, oh, that person I shouldn't trust. But first we get a feeling. First it's like,
right,
whoa, that felt creepy. And then we start to understand why we feel that way. So
right,
the vagus nerve is very important for intuition also. But yes, the pineal gland is definitely connected to decision making, connected to being able to receive visions and guidance and those kind of things as well.
right,
So once again, it's more about everyone's different and how do you tune into your different intuitive centers and
right.
learn your intuitive language.
I would like to ask the last question. I
Mhm.
know because you told 45 minutes, but now it's more than that.
Mhm.
Uh, you
Yes.
mentioned 3 points that 3 points that setback our intuition. How could I overcome these three setbacks? How do I know this is my intuition working or not?
Yes. One of the biggest things I do in my book is I have a whole chapter on distinguishing the voice of your intuition from the voice of your inner critic, the
Right,
part of you that's always doubting. And so I have a whole chart in my book about how do you tell the difference between when it's coming from a clear intuition or a noisy, emotionally charged critic
right,
or other voice that you don't want to be listening to get your decisions from, right?
right,
Um, and so the first step is slow down and learn your intuitive language and do the
right,
meditations and learn how do I get information? And here's one way to track. You can look back at your life and think about the times where you got a strong signal about something and you didn't listen to it, or you did listen to it. How did it come to you? Was it a vision? Was it a sound? Was it a feeling? And start to track back. How do you get information? And then when you're going through your week, pay more attention to the different information and data points that you're getting and start to keep a journal. So when we teach people, like, keep a journal, like, oh, when I went to class, I had this feeling and this is what happened. And you start to track your intelligence in this way. So
right,
that's the first thing to practice. How do you listen to your intuition? Number two, how do you trust it? You actually have to start practicing, like, okay, what if I'm fully committed to following my intuition? And
right,
if I try that for 1 week, just 1 week, and every intuition I get, I'm going to practice following,
right.
even if it scares me, especially if it scares me.
Even
One
if
week.
I do something, but I will follow.
Right. Exactly. And even if I don't know what's going to happen, and I just trust. And so that's building your trust. You're building a relationship with that guidance. And then number three, taking action. I have to actually act on it. And otherwise, I'm not respecting my intelligence. I'm not honoring my wisdom. So how do I take action? How do I have the conversations I need to have, follow through on the actions I need to follow through on? And that's really when you build that. That's when you're living from your intuitive intelligence.
Right.
And then it's fully embodied. And then you're making a bigger impact in your life.
Right.
So I do have to get going. But thank you so much for all your questions. These are great questions. Fatemeh, thank you for putting on the show and hosting, and for your great questions and sharing also.
Thanks for trusting on me, and I hope to see you in next webinar. Thank you so much.
Namaste, namaskar.
Thank you all for joining. Namaste.
Thank you, everyone. Namaste.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.